Am I the asshole for going home when my wife didn't let me into the delivery room? My M28 wife, F29, gave birth a few days ago. We had what I believe to be a fairly standard pregnancy, and I did my best to take care of things and make it easy for her. I took her to the hospital when she was due and her sister and mother met us there. The problem started when she was taken to the delivery room. She asked the nurse that only her mother and sister, F27, be allowed in the delivery, and then told me that she wanted me to wait until I've delivered and calmed down, before letting me into the room. I was kind of shocked and didn't want to make a scene, so I just said okay and sat down in the waiting room. We had not really discussed the plan for the hospital, and I had no reason to think I wouldn't be there when my son was born. I texted her sister if she knew my wife was going to do this. She said no. I told her to ask if my wife was concerned about something because I don't consider myself someone who would have made a fuss or made things more difficult for her. She texted back after a while saying that my wife just doesn't want you to see her like this, and then added that she didn't agree with my wife and tried to convince her, but ultimately it was her choice and I should respect it. I sat in the waiting room for 6 hours getting minimal updates as the labor was fairly slow, and then I decided that there was no point, so I texted her sister that I was going home. I'd meet my son when they brought him home and handle the birth certificate stuff the next day. They came home about 9 hours later and I was finally able to meet my son. When my wife's mother and sister left, she got very angry at me for leaving her at the hospital. I was angry too, but I told her that we can talk about this in a few days because she's just given birth. She wouldn't drop the subject, so I finally told her that she excluded me from the birth of my son for no reason. I didn't see the need to hang around a hospital waiting room for hours doing nothing, and that even her own sister thinks what she did was wrong. She said there could have been complications and I needed to be there, to which I replied that I wouldn't have been there because she kept me out of the room and the doctors would have handled any problems anyways. She called me an inconsiderate asshole and has been talking short with me for several days. Her sister told me I should just apologize and move past it because it was a stressful time for my wife, but I think I'm owed a bigger apology first for how I was excluded from my own son's birth. We had not really discussed the plan for the hospital. Everyone sucks here for this right here. Y'all just thought everything would go okay and didn't even think to make sure you were on the same page about a major medical procedure, bringing a person into the world. Bruh. Not the asshole. If your wife didn't want you to be in the delivery room, that should have been discussed ahead of time. She essentially shut the door in your face and expects you to have just waited in the uncomfortable waiting room for 15 hours. That's not okay. Info. She came home with the baby 9 hours later? So all up, from the time she went to hospital to the time she came home, it took 15 hours? For a first birth? What did they do? Discharge her from hospital the second the baby came out? Info. I feel like this can't be the full story. You guys didn't talk about any of this until the day of? What has your relationship with your wife been like? Etc. Not the asshole. Your wife can have sex with you and committed her life to you, but she isn't willing to let you be there while she gives birth to your son? That is so bizarre to me. I don't blame you for leaving, and it was really rude of her to expect you to wait around and not let you be involved. This is so complicated. I mean, it is her choice who to have in the room, but to want you to wait outside the room without even discussing it with you prior to the birth, basically blindsiding you, is very inconsiderate. If it was the actual birth, I could understand her not wanting certain people there since it would be her choice, but not wanting you there during the labor process, which can take days, is just weird. Waiting for hours on end with no real updates would be upsetting to anyone and make them anxious. Info. Why in God's name was raised not discussed ahead of time? My husband and I have discussed the scenario and we don't even want kids. Not the asshole. Your wife gets to choose who is in the room with her. She doesn't get to choose what you do when she doesn't let you in. She doesn't get to have her cake and eat it too. If you are an inconsiderate asshole for leaving, so is she for kicking you out and not telling you till the last minute. If she wanted to be a single parent, she should have found a sperm donor, not gotten married and had a kid. Am I the asshole for refusing to roll my sleeves up per my father-in-law's request? Good morning, folks. Using a throwaway to keep it private. So I'm gonna preface this by saying that I, male 32, was a drug addict for 6 years. I got clean and am no longer a user. However, I do have scars all over both of my arms from using, and although I tend to cover up due to shame and insecurity, I've finally made peace with my past. I met my now wife and have been clean for 4 years now. Her family are decent folks, except her dad can be a bit hostile towards me, but he always says he's just trying to make sure his daughter is treated well. We both have this tension between us that never seems to fade. I recently found out that my wife is pregnant. We were both overjoyed and excited to tell everybody, starting with my in-laws. We visit some days ago and broke the news to everyone. My father-in-law started side-eyeing me for a bit and sitting there while everyone was congratulating us. My wife asked her dad if he was okay, and he just got up from his seat and walked up to and said that he wanted me to roll my sleeves up so he could take a look at my arms. I looked at him in utter confusion, and he bluntly said, "You got a baby on the way. I want to make sure my daughter is making the right decision and you're not using again." I got mad and we began exchanging words. I refused to show him my arms and told him off. My mother-in-law asked me to do it because I have nothing to hide, yet I refused because it felt beyond disrespectful. More family got involved telling me to just do it to ease my father-in-law's mind a bit. I got up and told my wife we needed to leave. We left and my wife blew up at me in the car saying I just created unnecessary drama and conflict and made her dad suspect that I'm back to using by refusing to let him take a look at my arms. I argued that his request was insulting and made it seem like my word doesn't deserve to be trusted. She said I could have just rolled my sleeves up for a minute and be done with it instead of making a scene and getting her dad upset. I didn't know HPW to respond, so I kept my mouth shut. We got home and she kept avoiding me while blaming me for messing up her joy. Part of me says that I was stupid for not complying and doing what my father-in-law wanted, while another part insists that his request was demeaning and downright insulting to me and my struggle as a former addict. But I'm conflicted on how I handled this. Did I overreact? Not the asshole. You didn't give your in-law any reason for him to be thinking that you are using again, it was just him being an asshole. And would reconsider your relationship with your wife as well. Not the asshole. You did not overreact at all. What your father-in-law did was completely demeaning, rude, and unnecessary. He created the unnecessary drama by not asking but demanding something of you that already has a lot of shame and insecurity attached to it in front of everyone. Sounds like they all, including your wife, need to be educated on why comments and demands like those can hinder an addict. Not the asshole. Your father-in-law is not your doctor or parole officer, or, well, your father. And even if he was that last thing, you're not a minor. He doesn't get to call surprise inspections anytime he thinks you're doing something bad, and the fact he's treating you as potentially guilty based on absolutely nothing but your past is incredibly disrespectful and dismissive of all the work you've put in. You and your wife need to get on the same page about standing up to him or even putting him in time out when needed before the baby gets here, or I foresee a lot more boundary stomping and arguments. Not the asshole. So your wife is saying you should have done it instead of making a scene and getting her dad upset. What about the scene her dad made that got you upset? Did she ever in the moment say, "Hey dad, stop, we all know he's clean, he's giving no one any reason to think otherwise," or any other form of support or defense? I'm not sure which of those two I like the least, it's a close call. Not the asshole. It's not her father's job to stay on top of your sobriety. And you don't give in to unreasonable, humiliating demands because they only take a minute. That just encourages people to make them again. Your Phil is the one who ruined your wife's news. And she was being a terrible partner by not standing up for you. I wouldn't give an inch. Not the asshole. Addiction is a disease that you're recovering from, but Phil is treating you like a criminal. He's asking you to prove him wrong on what seems to be a baseless accusation. Who wants to be stopped and frisked by a family member when sharing the news of a pregnancy? If you had given in, you would be giving Phil power in your marriage and household that does not belong to him. If wife trusts that you're not using, that's the only opinion that should matter for your household. I worry he already has some of that power if wife thinks you should have given in. Phil clearly has some biases and needs to educate himself. This is a tough situation all around and I can understand your Phil wanting to protect his daughter. But you are not the asshole. It was inappropriate to ask you that in front of the whole family instead of maybe pulling you aside and talking to you in private at least. Congratulations on making it out the other side of your addiction, that is awesome. Not the asshole, but you should talk to your wife. She's the one in a relationship with you, and if she supports her dad's accusation, she may have some trust issues she hasn't addressed. Addiction is a lifelong issue, but she should be on your side in an argument. Not because of blind trust, but because of open communication. It's no one else's business but the two of yours. Am I the asshole for locking our bedroom from the inside after my husband locked me in from the outside? Our bedroom has 2 locks. The regular key lock, both sides, and a barrel bolt, inside only. We had an unexpected and unwelcome late-night guest, my husband's friend. I wanted to kick him out, but my husband said he needed to speak to him for 5 minutes about something important. I told him to talk to him elsewhere and not inside the house. He kept insisting it would just be 5 minutes and asked me to wait in our room. I said no and I was going to go and ask the friend to leave, but my husband ended up locking me inside of our bedroom. I was really angry and I told him to let me out, but he left after telling me he would only be 5 minutes. He never came back after 5 minutes and I was getting angrier every second. Over an hour later I decided to just go to sleep and I locked the door with the barrel bolt. I fell asleep before he came back, and when he did, he was knocking and telling me to open the door. I did wake up but I ignored him. He knows I'm a light sleeper, so in the morning we had a fight over it and he was angry since I ruined his usual routine, as he had to wait over 2 hours for me to wake up, unlock the door to get his things. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. Boo-hoo. You ruined his routine. He locked you inside a room for an hour with no explanation? Who the fuck disrespects their partner and takes away their bodily autonomy like that? He's literally treating you like a child who needs to be punished. I'm sorry that happened to you. It sounds like a terrible experience. Edit. I feel like we need more info on the guest, the context around the guest's visit though. He locked you in your bedroom in order to talk to his friend. What kind of discussion requires locking your spouse away in a room in the middle of the night? There is some shady shit going on here. You would do well to determine what your husband is into. Not the asshole. Byt. What did they talk about and why were you so profoundly against the friend coming in for a quick chat? Location flag. 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 Hello abuse? He locked you in your room? That is not okay. Does this sort of thing happen often? Not the asshole. Not the asshole. But you should consider if you can trust your husband after this. I personally wouldn't trust someone who locked me inside a room and first come back hours later. I really think people are underplaying how serious this was. As is op. He literally imprisoned you. You were locked in a room, with no way out, intentionally. Who TF does that? And you just went to sleep? I'm not victim blaming, but I have to know. Why didn't you call the police and report it? Does stuff like this happen a lot? Have you grown accustomed to abuse? Why do you have a bedroom that locks on the outside? This is serious. Not the asshole. And PLS, look into therapy and divorce lawyers. Info. Why does your bedroom door have a key lock on both sides? Not the asshole. Girl, you need to change the locks and lock him out of the house completely, not just the bedroom. Am I the asshole for not letting my husband take our toddler to the museum? Hi all. Apologies if this isn't entirely coherent, as this is currently happening and I would love some perspective. My husband, M40, and I, F24, just got into a heated argument. The premise is this: he is obsessed with taking our 2-year-old out of the house whenever possible. To the point where he deems it to be neglect if I keep him home when I watch him. The thing is, he always brings our child out with him to places I plan to go as a family, and he refuses to go together, but will go alone with our kid. For example, he hates going to the mall. He needs to be in and out and that's it. I have ended several of our mall trips together in tears because he is angry, short-tempered, and constantly hungry when we go to the mall together, and he makes it a point to make the experience miserable. But whenever he has to take care of our son, he is happy to be at the mall for hours. And is upset when I bring this up to him. Another example: I wanted to take a family trip to our local science museum since it would be our child's first time there, but he took our son alone and complained that he couldn't play with him at home or just go to the park, library. He deems this to be neglectful since that is what I do with our baby when I take care of him and I don't bring him to other places. Again today, he has taken our son to our history museum on his own after knowing that I had suggested several times that we all go together. This museum in particular is special to us as we both met in college as history majors, and this specific museum holds a lot of importance for us. I wanted to go together with our son and experience his first time there. He has gotten in an argument with me when I pointed this out, saying that I am perfectly capable of taking my son there on my own and I just don't because I am lazy and just do crafts with our son at home or take him out to local parks and libraries. We both work full-time jobs and try to accommodate taking care of our child when our sitter cancels, etc., but I try to save these special places for us to go as a family. For example, I organized a trip to the reptile zoo last weekend for all of us to go together after he nixed the idea to go to the history museum together. So, am I the asshole for saving these places to go together and not taking my son on my own? Additionally, am I the asshole for just doing crafts, playing at home, going to local parks and libraries instead of more extravagant places while I take care of my son? Too long did not read. I didn't want my husband to go to the museum on his own with our son and wanted to go as a family. Not the asshole, I don't think your husband likes you very much. Not the asshole, are you sure he doesn't have a friend that goes with him and the toddler to these places? Seems awful suspicious. Edited. Thanks to whomever gave me an award. It's my very first. Smiling face. Not the asshole, there is nothing wrong with wanting to see your kid experience things for the first time as a family. That is a completely reasonable request. What isn't reasonable is your husband acting like you're neglecting your kid by not taking him out every time you watch him. Him getting so angry at you while you're at the mall that you leave in tears is also pretty unreasonable on his part. Honestly, it sounds like your marriage is very unhealthy and your husband seems to be emotionally abusing you. Your husband doesn't want to be in public with you, doesn't sound like he likes you very much. He could be using the kid to pick up women, single moms. Is this relationship even working out? I'm in a 16-year age gap relationship too, so I'm not reading too far into that, but the dynamic here is just terrible. Not the asshole. My husband, M40, and I, F24. Oh brother, get ready for some hot takes here. Not the asshole, but your husband seems to like excluding you. Does he do this in every aspect of your life or just with your child? Something isn't right. Why can't you guys just go twice? My sister thinks he's cheating on you. Not the asshole. Your husband sounds very passive-aggressive and kind of like a dick. He's 16 years older than you? There's some weird power dynamics going on.